Hello everybody and welcome to Jaecoo UK tips, tricks and advice. Okay, so this is what I like to call your pre-flight checks or pre-drive checks. So if you've just got your Jaecoo for the first time and you want to know what is the best mode to drive in, this is what I personally think is the best, and it's probably shared amongst most drivers of this vehicle. Ignore my MPG at the moment, as I've not been driving very well using electric. I've been using a lot of fuel, unfortunately, because I've got lazy charging. However, so if you have just got your Jaecoo, the first thing to do is to switch it to the HEV mode. Just to explain what these two are very quickly, the EV is if you want to drive in all electric, so if you do very short mileage driving around in places, it's a really good mode to use, as it will just use your pure electric at all times, especially if you charge your car all the time as well. If not, if you're like me, doing a lot of motorway driving, HEV is better in this scenario, as it uses a combination of both your engine power, if you like to call it, that's more of a generator, and also electric, so it combines the both and chooses the best driving option depending on what the car thinks. So this is more of a hybrid mode. So once you get in, first thing you would do is put your foot on the brake. This starts the car. I've already pre-done that. Next step is to slide down on the screen. So at the very bottom you have three menu options: a DMS, LPD and the SLA. So these basically are all these binging and bonging that you will hear as you're driving around. Most people find them very annoying. I do, especially this one, because if you have your hand on the steering wheel like this when you're driving, then you are blocking this sensor, which is in turn this option. So it would automatically tell you that your eyes are not on the road, even though they are. So the first thing I do every time is I turn that off. You'll get a warning, just click OK, swipe down again. Next one is lane departure. It's a really good function to have if you want to use it. A lot of people think it's too fierce, if you like to call it that. I personally don't think it is. If you're forceful with your steering wheel when it tries to counter, it'll just stop trying to counter steer you, and will allow you just to change lanes without indicating. However, as I just said, indicating will stop that happening, so if you drive properly then you won't have that problem. However, I still turn it off. And finally is the SLA, so that's like your speed warning. It's really good to have on, to be fair, and even if you do turn off the audible, the visual will still remain on your dash, so it still flash at you, and also in heads-up display, which I don't know if you can see, it's one of the bins in the way, but it's somewhere around there. It flashes in there. I turn off the audible though, because there's quite a lot of the roads I drive on speed changes and there isn't another sign to say when it changes again, so it just beeps at me all the time, so I just turn that off. Once you're done them three, that will stop all the binging and bonging, so you can have a nice peaceful drive. Next step is to click the little car button in the bottom corner, select new energy, and in your new energy option you have three modes: initial, smart and forced. So your initial mode, don't really know why that's there, to be honest with you. It's a factory default, it states, but it even tells you at the bottom that you should really be using smart mode, and if you check the manual it even says don't use initial, so don't even know why it even defaults to that option every time. So you need to make sure you follow this step at least, because it will default to that every time you get in the car. Best mode to drive in is smart mode. If you put it in that, then as it states at the bottom, it intelligently selects the best time to charge the vehicle, and also finds the best balance between economy and power. So when you're driving, it'll switch between the hybrid engine and also the using the electric battery. So if you leave it in smart, it's the best mode to be driving in. It also stops your percentage from dropping too low as well. Once it gets around about 20%, you'll notice that your engine starts turning on a lot more than normal. I think the lowest mine's ever gone down to is probably about 17%, so the engine just keeps kicking in and charging it back up again. So if you put it in that option, you're always guaranteed to have at least a little bit of electric in your battery. Force mode, if you put force mode on, when you're driving, you have this option that appears, 30% to 80%. That basically is telling the car that you wish for it to force the engine to start and charge the battery to whatever percentage that you set. So if you set it to 40, then it'll switch the engine on when you're driving, and once it hits 40% battery power, it'll turn the engine off and it'll start using the electric again. However, I have mine set to 80% all the time because I think if I want it on force, then I want to get as much power as I possibly can without it turning off. And it will charge it fairly quick. I think my commute to work is approximately 15 miles, and in that 15 miles I went from 19%, I think it was, up to 40%, and it's about 30 odd minutes of driving, so it's pretty good, to be fair. However, it is the worst fuel economy for the vehicle because it will turn the engine on and it'll be using your petrol. Personally, I'm not really too fussed about it, so I use that. Like in this case, I'll probably use it today just to get some more power as I'm driving to work, and then drive back in smart mode. And that is pretty much it. So yep, smart mode, turn these three off, and then you'll have a nice quiet drive. And that's it.